Hello, so today we're going to continue from where we left off yesterday, and I'm going to be doing a tier list of all of the gold augments in the game. So this is going to be relative to set 15, talk about how strong I think all of the different gold augments are, and a lot of this is going to be based on how much I end up taking them in my own games when I play. If you like my content, please make sure to like and subscribe. So yesterday we did the tier list. Tier lists are a little bit more for fun. I'm really busy this weekend, so we're doing a couple tier lists. We'll get back to the guides on the weekend. I'm actually working on the Orn Artifact guide, which should be out either this weekend or early next week, just trying to do the final touches on that. If you like that content and you want to stay tuned, make sure to like and subscribe. And also there is the VOD channel where I post daily gameplay videos, if you want to get that type of content as well. So let's go through it. Golden Quest. So this one's basically, if you get a bunch of gold, then you can get your 2-star 5 cost and 2 items tailored to it. A lot of times this involves you sacking many rounds and being unable to do a lot with your board. I'm going to say it's B tier. Sometimes this one can become really broken. A lot of times if you're in an encounter that gives you a lot of gold, so think the Braum encounter where you get lots of gold every round, or Scuttle Puddle or Crab Brave, those ones where you get a bunch of extra gold, this can be a lot better, right? Because you get a free 2-star 5 cost. The problem is a lot of times you're sacking so many rounds and there's a couple 5 costs that aren't that great, even with a tailored item, even with the extra tailored items and stuff. You just kind of get them and you're like, oh, like that's gonna be a really hard board to make. A lot of them are playable if you can fit them onto like a mentor board, for example. That you can usually find a way to stabilize pretty easily and play around a wide variety. But I'll put in B tier because it's not something I'm taking all the time. It's something I'm specifically going to be looking at in galaxies where I have a lot of econ. That's like a big condition for it. Also, I want to make it very clear, tier list mostly for fun. Take the augment that best fits your position. When I'm ranking them, a lot of times when I'm going from S to C tier or whatever, I'm usually talking about them relative to how often I find that they're applicable to a board that I'm playing. So of course, some of them I'll talk about why they're broken or why they're really strong in my opinion, but of course every augment could be really good if you have the right spot for it. Magic roll, I think this one's like a solid B tier. You can click it. Some of them are pretty high roll, some of them aren't. Just a good reliable way of just getting some extra stuff. If you don't have another option, it's like a good default that you can just get something out of. Some of the magic roll stuff is pretty bad though. There's a couple that gives you a pile of champions that's like a bunch of gold, so you just have to make use of it. Sometimes with the components you could get griefed if you get 4 components that aren't particularly useful to your board, so be careful with it, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's just solid. Story of 7. Now, I don't like these type of augments, so I'm going to put in C tier. Now, I know it just got nerfed. I hate these type of augments. Now, it's hard for me to judge it. Maybe I can move it to B tier, but especially after the nerf, I think it's definitely C tier. I avoid these at all costs. Basically, when you Story of 7, it's you basically have to defeat players in a combat, and then you get a reward after defeating 7, and then there's a bigger reward after defeating 14. And the reward tables look pretty good for if you get the 14 cash out. The problem with all of these is that they fundamentally are very rarely good to take. Why is that? Because basically, the Story of 7, you are basically going down a gold augment. You are saying to yourself, I'm going to win against all the other people that are in my lobby. However, I'm not going to have a gold augment to help me, at least for those first 7 fights that you have. And then after the 7 fights, you still get a reward, but it's not that big. It's not enough to compensate for a gold, in my opinion. So you really want to get the 14. Whenever you have these type of augments, another one that we'll talk about later, I'll rank it in the same tier. It's the Warpath. Basically, it's a lot harder to get to the value of the augment because you're trying to say that I'm the strongest person despite other people having augments that make them stronger. So you're already going into a lot of the fights with a deficit, and that's where it can fall off really hard. Sometimes if you have a high roll opener, you might look like you're doing good, you get a couple of the wins, you're like, oh, I'm on a good path to cash out. But then as soon as people start upgrading their boards, they now have upgraded boards that are equal to yours, but they also have a combat augment or an augment that helps them a lot more, and then you start to fall off really hard. And that's the whole by the time you cash out Warpath or by the time you cash out Story of 7, the game's already over and you're like, oh well, was that worth it or not? And it's eh. So I put them in C tier. It's very rare that I take this. It's only if I have an insane opener and I know for sure that I'm winning out. Adaptive style. So this one is, I don't know if it's still in the game, I haven't seen it in a while, but duelists gain 2 attack damage and ability power, stacking 15 times, and then duelist tanks gain 2 armor and magic resist. I think this one's pretty good, but obviously you have to be playing around duelists. I don't think it's like broken. I think at one point it was like, I remember in PBE it was like a little bit of a shit show with it. Especially with Gangplank, I can see this being extremely broken, but I would put it in B tier just because like you need to have a really good duelist spot in order to like actually play the duelist, because usually if you're playing more than 2 duelists, it's going to be like deeper into like the reroll style Viego lines, which is a lot more specific and niche, but I think the Augment is relatively strong. Aim for the top. So this one, I don't know if it's S tier or A tier. It's hard to say. But basically, I'm going to put in A tier for now. You basically, with aim for the top, are more likely to fight strong players. The matchmaking is really weird with this. I've taken it a couple times. Sometimes you fight the same person like multiple times in a row late game, which is really awkward and bad. But like that's like a separate issue. When you lose, you gain XP. So with this aim for the top, you can actually play it for like a strict lose streak. But then every 3 wins, you gain a component. So with this, especially with positioning being like really important, I think there's a lot of comps that really rely on positioning to actually like function correctly. Think of all like the wrapping backlines, the melee carries, the stuns. Being able to see who you're gonna fight is massive. It's just a huge advantage in TFT. It's such a huge advantage that previously there's like another augment that was similar to this last set. It got removed because it was so broken, right? Like these are augments that just fundamentally change the way you could play the game and give you such an advantage. Now obviously if you're not positioning well, you're not making use of like aggressive positioning, it's not going to feel like an insane augment, but basically just being able to see who you're fighting is insane. But then also getting the component every 3 wins, as long as you can cash out around 3 components from this, so have 9 wins over the course of the game, it's pretty much equivalent to a gold. But if you get even more than that, it's better than a gold augment. So you not only that, you also get the EXP if you're losing. So it's not like it's an all or nothing, you have to win in order to get stuff out of it. So between everything, it just gives a lot of value. But the main thing, just being able to see who you're fighting, it's definitely A tier. I don't know if it's S tier because like it's not that much combat power, so it's hard to get all the cash outs going, but I would put in A tier for sure. All that shimmers, these ones are awkward. I remember they used to be a little bit broken. On set launch, they were like an instant click, because on set launch it was a fast 9 meta, so they would just give you an item that would allow you to tempo really aggressively. They're very good for like econing with tempo if you have a spot for them. However, I think now they're not as crazy because you're more playing towards certain reroll lines or playing towards like some of the level 8 comps, like the fast 8 style comps. There's not really like a really heavy fast 9 meta right now. Because of that, you have to look at the actual artifacts and how good they are on units. Besides specifically some reroll lines where Mokul's Mail is really good, or unlocking some potential with like Kale, for example, there's some good holders of it, but it's a lot more specific. So I'm not going to say it's like A tier, because like you need to have a good, usually it's like a unit that really likes one of these items, and there's like a couple, there's a handful, so that's why it's like B, like situational is what I would say. I'll be the head. I'm going to put these all in B tier. I think 7 Mighty Mech is pretty good. There's 3 of them. I guess I'll do them all at the same time now. We usually do them in alphabetical order, but I'll try my best to do them all right now and just put them all together. I think it's with an I, E, F, G, H, I. I'll be the arms, and then I'll be the legs. Basically, the way this works is that you start with one of the augments, and then the head is the last one that you get. If you get all 3 of them and you get to level 10, then you have like the instant win, Giga, level 10, Mighty Mech, like broken thing. Like it's basically as a replacement for like the prismatic. It's kind of like the mini game that you can have, similar to how Battle Academia has a prismatic and Soul Fighter has a prismatic. That's what this one is. And the conditions are you need all 3 augments and that. Now, outside of the augments, obviously a lot of times you might just hit one of these and take one of them. Now, they usually buff the Mighty Mech, and they also give you a good option of playing around Mighty Mech early. So for specifically, like, I'll be the legs is when you hit early. It gets 3 Mighty Mech champions. So a lot of times you hit Mighty Mech early and you can tempo with it. Same with I'll be the arms. You often get Mighty Mech units and you can play around them. And even I'll be the legs, I'll be the head. pretty good in terms of how much it buffs it. I think 7 Mighty Mech is a little bit slept upon. I think it's a pretty reliable and strong comp right now, just the way that other things kind of shook themselves up. I think if you can actually make it to 7 Mighty Mech, it's actually worthwhile, and they do provide you some good value early in the game, but obviously with situational, you want to be playing around Mighty Mech. You have to have items to play around those units. Obviously, Gangplank is busted, but I'm not treating these with respect to Gangplank, because that's like, he wants other stuff besides these augments typically. So I'm going to put in B tier. Another one, I think this augment is kind of shit. If you think about a gold augment, the standard for a gold augment is usually 3 components. So if a gold augment is giving you less than 3 components, it has to have some sort of benefit that makes it a lot better. Here, you're just getting a duplicate of an item you already have. So typically, like, there's very few times you want like double of the same item. And it's rare that I would look at this and say, I want to take an augment to get double of an item that is in turn giving me less components than typical. So I feel like, for me at least, I avoid this one. Now, another one plus, I would put in B tier. It gives you 3 components, right? It's around the same value as other augments, just that it duplicates an item, so then you can have a little bit more applicability. But I wouldn't start the game taking another one unless I have a very, very specific situation for duplicate of the same item, which is rare, which is why I put it in C tier. The way that I kind of look at it, you know, if you think about gold augments, I'll put it now, I'll rank it. It's a little bit out of order, but big grab bag, right? Big grab bag, that's like the standard of gold augment, right? You get 3 components, a little bit of gold, and a reforger. So if you're getting anything less than 3 components for a gold augment, you really want to be justifying why you're getting less than 3 components. So when I'm ranking them, a lot of times if I see an augment, that's a general way of saying like, that seems like lower cap, or that seems less powerful, because I'm getting less components than what should be the standard, which is something like this: 3 random components, 2 gold, 1 reforger, right? Just as an idea. Ascension, I really don't like this one, but there are a couple comps right now, like playing around vertical juggernauts, that makes it really good. With Ascension, after 15 seconds, you gain a bunch of damage amp. The way you should always look at Ascension is that you shouldn't just necessarily instantly click it unless you have an insane amount of frontline. Because, how do I phrase it in terms of like evaluating the power of the augment? Think of it like this. If you have an augment that just gives you upfront power, right? Like, let's say there's another augment that gives you some sort of damage amp. This augment effectively does nothing for 15 seconds. So if the fight is over in 15 seconds, even if the fight lasts longer than 15 seconds, in order to get actual value from Ascension, you really need to have like a really long fight. Because like, imagine like, you know, 15 seconds of combat, your units gain 60% damage amp. If the fight only lasts 20 seconds, right, for 75% of the fight, you're not getting any value off your augments. And in most cases, the fight's already over before Ascension procs. Now, the reason it's not like trash tier, or not trash tier, but the reason it's not like very bad tier to me, and it's like a B tier, is because there are a lot of vertical front lines that are really popular right now. The vertical juggernaut is pretty powerful in a lot of boards, and there's a lot of boards that sometimes play into deeper vertical traits that also have good value off of Ascension. So I'm going to put in B tier, sometimes food, make sure you have a good spot for it. Aura farming, I think this is shit now. I think it just takes way too long. It was like really broken, then they nerfed it, now it's like whatever. Basically, when you read aura farming, you get 1 item and a 2-star 5 cost at 4/6. Sometimes you don't even get a good 5 cost at 4/6. It becomes a little bit awkward, but you're basically playing down a gold augment for majority of the game in order to get a 2-star 5 cost. The way that I look at augments a lot of times is if the augment is just like, how do I phrase it? Let's say, like, somebody can high roll a 2-star 5 cost. That's what I'm trying to get at, right? Somebody can just have a 2-star 5 cost. So this augment is basically just giving me something that is essentially as good as something that generally happens in the game anyways. So what am I really getting from this augment? It's like, it's just trying to compensate for me not high rolling. That's basically what it is. And I know that that sounds really like bleh, but I think it's just the value you lose from not having a gold augment for like the entirety of the game. You basically are lacking an augment up until 4/6. Wouldn't it just be better to take a stronger augment and then up until 4/6, and then you'll have like the econ and the HP to hit your 2-star 5 cost anyways, except you might even be in a better spot because you didn't just sack all of up until 4/6. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, at least with like Golden Quest, I know it's like similar, but Golden Quest gives you 2 items, so it already gives you way more, right? Remember, the value of a gold augment is 3 components. Golden Quest gives you more, which maybe they changed it, but either way, Golden Quest, as of what I'm reading right now, gives you more. And then additionally, you could, in certain encounters, I was saying the reason Golden Quest is good is because there's encounters where you get a lot of gold. So you're not playing until 4 or 6 to get it. A lot of times you can get it a little bit earlier, and that gives you a chance to play around it a little bit nicer. I don't think this is a good augment. Backup Dancer, the reason I nerfed, I think is still strong. I'm going to put it in B tier though. All the emblems, I'm going to put in D tier. Not because they're D tier. D tier, I'm just putting them in like an unrank. We'll maybe go through them after, and I'll point out some of the ones that are good. But I just don't think they belong in the tier list because emblems are very situational. I don't think any of the emblems are so broken or powerful that you want to play around it always. I think that typically with the emblems, you're just trying to like tempo with it, or if you're playing towards that trait, it can help you out in certain cases. But most of the time, they're not that good, especially now that there's not like crazy win conditions with the emblems. I'm just gonna put them in like an unranked tier basically. Best friends, if you need armor, it's good. So if there's AD players in your lobbies, this gives you armor and attack speed by positioning your units a little bit weird. I think that's fine. Big friend, same thing. This one gives you a lot of HP and some gives you some durability if you have a unit with a lot of HP. Good if you have a unit with a lot of HP, right? Pretty straightforward. Blazing Soul, same thing, B tier. I think there's some comps that can make great use of it. It gives you attack speed and ability power. So if you're looking for attack speed and ability power, which is usually like, you know, AP lines that aren't Sorks, this can be really strong. So like, you know, I think even Prodigy likes this quite a bit in some cases. So like if you're playing around one of those lines, it's a good combat augment. Blood Rage, same thing. I'm going to put it here. I don't think it's particularly broken. It gives you damage amp based on mixing health. So it works really well with melee carries. If you're playing a melee carry board, I can see this being pretty well. Bronze for Life. I think it used to be broken, by the way. I think this used to be like Giga S tier when the set first launched. However, since then, a lot of the Bronze for Life boards aren't that popular, and it's actually a little bit more specific because all of the like crazy 5-cost soup boards don't really fit in that much in the current landscape of the game. I'm gonna put in B tier. Of course, if you hit like there's Cassante boards that are really good with it. A lot of the Mentor Mech boards are really good with it because you get a lot of traits activated, and there's a lot of 2 traits in the game, so don't sleep on Bronze for Life. However, it can sometimes grief you because you're just playing like a really ragtag board, so you really need like quality units on your board in order to actually use Bronze for Life, and that's a little bit awkward right now. This Udyr hero, I haven't seen it in forever. I don't know how good it is. I'm gonna put in the unrankable. Calculated Loss, I think this one's really good. I'm not sure if it's S tier or if it's A tier. I think it's I'll put in A tier for now, and I might move it up later. Basically, when you lose combat, you gain 2 gold and a free shop reroll. It's an insane amount of gold. Basically, every time you lose a round, you get 4 gold worth of value. So if you just choose to lose streak, like if you lose streak like an entire stage, you're getting like 40 gold worth of value off of this thing, right? Like 5 and 5, like 10 rounds, 40 gold. It's an insane amount of econ, and also it's early econ because you're getting 2 gold per round. So if you sack your stage 2 with calculated loss, you just like lose every single round on stage 2. You're earning so much gold on stage 2 that you're going to be so far ahead in terms of econ that you can basically hard force whatever you want with it. And you also have the reroll, so not only do you have the gold to be able to make interest and level, then once you actually hit your level, you can basically roll for everything. It gives you so much value for what it is, so it's definitely up there. It's one of the better of the, it's one of the strongest augments. It just makes your margins thin, so you really want to play a high cap comp that's win out, right? You don't want to play calculated loss into some like, you know, reroll that doesn't cap very high and play for 4th, because you're going to be trading your HP for a lot of value. So you want to play something that's like a giga win out comp. Care package, I think this is B tier. I don't think it's any it gives you some like loot and stuff. None of the loot seems crazy to me, so I don't think it's like giga broken. So we'll put in B tier. It could get nuts, it could give you a lot of value, but I think it's just like a little bit like it takes a little while to get stuff going with it. Caretaker's Favor, if you're pushing levels, or even if you're not pushing levels, you can play this even with reroll lines in some cases. You basically have 4 components, but you have to make it to level 8. So 4 component anvil is pretty strong. You know, you can argue that it's really good for a gold, and you can put in A tier. However, it doesn't give you any econ, and you need to make it to level 8, so there's a little bit of a trade-off there. Obviously, it's not impossible to make it to level 8, but you're down a good chunk of combat until you actually hit your levels, so it's a little bit of like an awkward cadence sometimes if you're not in a particularly amazing spot. Class President, I think this is B tier. It doesn't seem that broken. The stats that it gives doesn't seem that crazy. It basically just gives 16 AD, 16 AP, and 140 health on only Battle Academia units. It could give some extra stats to everybody else as well, but it also griefs your positioning a little bit, and a lot of the Battle Academia boards really like to have their units spread out to make good use of like wrapping and all of that stuff. So I don't think it's like broken. We're just gonna put in B tier, similar to the other ones. Clear Mind, I'm actually gonna do it with Cluttered Mind. So Clear Mind I think is B tier, and Cluttered Mind, sorry, Clear Mind B tier, Cluttered Mind A tier. Cluttered Mind, basically if you have a full bench, you gain 3 XP per round. It's a really good econ augment, can help you to tempo, and you can actually play a lot of creative boards. Also with Cluttered Mind, because you're holding your whole bench, you can basically hold a lot of the key units, and it makes a lot of sense in those cases. Clear Mind, however, it's a lot more difficult. I think it's definitely a tier below Cluttered Mind. Now, if you need econ, it's still a fine econ augment, but this one you require no champions on your bench and you get 3 XP. This one makes it a lot harder because like you can't hold unit pairs a lot of the time. You really want to have either a high roll opener or commit to a lose streak with it, which makes it really awkward. The other good part about Cluttered Mind and Clear Mind, however, is that once you hit your board, you can often get value on it later in the game to be able to get to level 9 or get to some high cap versions of boards. But as per usual, I think Clear Mind is just going to be much worse because, like I said, if you have to hold a unit pair, all of a sudden your augment doesn't have value. So now you're incentivized to either roll really deep and you have to play very aggressive, or you have to sell everything and play very open. And both of those are more risky strategies as opposed to Cluttered Mind. That gives you the flexibility of doing whatever because you just fill up your bench. So it's cool. Climb the Ladder, if you're playing a strong vertical trait, this one basically just gives everybody attack damage, ability power, armor, and magic resist if they share a trait. So if you're playing all units that share the same trait, for example, like a full Star Guardian board or something like that, then Climb the Ladder is going to be great. Battle Academia, it's going to be great. Soul Fighter, some of these stats are very similar to what you get in Soul Fighter, so it's a little bit awkward, but even then it might be okay in those type of boards. If you're not playing a long vertical trait, then it's kind of useless, right? Like if you're not playing deep. Cloning Facility, it's hard to say. This one used to be very good for tempo. I don't know if there's a good use case for cloning. I guess Cassante. I don't know if I put in A tier or not. Basically, you get a duplicate unit if you put your unit in that hex. It's really good. It doesn't like duplicate the anomaly or things like that, or the bonus fruit, whatever you want to call it. But it is really good for tempo, and I think it's a little bit slept upon. I really like it for A tier, but I think you need to have an upgraded unit in order to actually click this. So you can argue that it's B tier as well. Like, I don't know where to put it, but I think I'll put in A tier. I really like this augment. I think that you get a lot of value off of it, and just having a duplicate unit on your board is pretty good, especially early game into mid game. And there are some use cases for late game carries that can actually make great use of Cloning Facility. Like, cause I played it with Cassante one time, and it felt amazing because you just got the extra Cassante guy living and dying while you had your Cassante run around. So like there are some like really good use cases for it late game as well. So it's good for early game, mid game, and then there's also like late game caps with it. Besides just playing it for like an average normal style board. So I think it's A tier. Cooking Pot. I don't think there's anybody that uses it crazy right now. But basically this is you get a frying pan, then you get extra permanent health with it. I think it's like okay. The only like it feels like, how do I phrase it? A lot of the comps that really want a spat, not a frying pan. So if this was cooking pan, or sorry, not cooking pot, if it was like cooking spatula, then I think it would be a lot better. But I don't think there's many of the frying pans that are particularly amazing right now. The only one I can think of is maybe Prodigy in some cases. And obviously there's the reroll like Duelist, Executioners, like those things. But they don't feel that great. I'll explain one part of it as well. In the past, units would generate mana from being hit. So if you had Cooking Pot Duelist, for example, let's say you had Cooking Pot and you were applying it to a Duelist, like, I don't know, Viego, right? What would happen is you would make an Exodia unit that basically had infinite HP, and by having a lot of HP, that unit would then be able to cast a bunch because they will absorb a bunch of damage and basically go nuts. Cooking Pot, to me, feels a lot worse now because you can't make those Exodia units anymore. They get a bunch of HP, so they're still hard to kill, but they're not going to generate mana from getting hit. so they don't have the added benefit of being like a 1v9 monster. Part of what they did this set was remove the ability for units to be like 1v9 monsters. They want to kind of get rid of that a little bit. That's how they did the whole roles revamped and all of that, where they made attack fighters that generate mana a certain way and tanks that generate mana a different way. So now with Cooking Pot, that it kind of like it feels like it lost some of its luster in creating those crazy situations where it actually like mattered to have the HP. So I'll put it in B tier. Crown's Will. This gives you a little bit of ability power for your whole board and a little bit of armor. If you need ability power and armor, it also gives you the rod. It's not that strong of an augment, but I don't think it's C tier. We'll just put it in B tier, but it's like leading towards the bottom of B tier. Like you really need to have a good spot, or you really need these stats in particular for this to be good. Crimea River, I actually think is really good because 1 mana regen is actually a lot, and there's a lot of boards that really like 1 mana regen. I want to put this in A tier, but I think that's a hot take. So if I'm putting it in A tier, I want you guys to promise that if you guys think that it's shit, don't be like mean to me, because I can be swayed very easily that it's B tier. I think that it's A tier though, right? Like I haven't tried it out yet, but 1 mana regen is actually a lot, because there's a lot of units. Like, okay, let me explain. There is a power up bonus, right? Sorry, this video is going to be so fucking long, and I hope you guys enjoy the effort that I'm putting in to explain some of these things, but I know some of you guys just ignore it as soon as I say something you disagree with. You just type in the comments and say that I'm an idiot. But like, I'm going to explain something that's very important. So let's go to power-ups. So over 9,000, right? This power-up is really broken on a lot of units. You hear it all the time. Oh, power-up over 9,000, Katarina, broken. Over 9,000, Kaisa, broken. Over 9,000. Like every reroll line, it's like really broken on it. Now, why is it really broken? Part of it is that it just gives you an infinite amount of stats that are really good. The stats are also somewhat tailored, so you know you're not just gonna get really unlucky with it. You could get a little bit unlucky, but a lot of times, like if you're playing Katarina, look at it, when you take over 9,000, you're gonna get mostly AP, attack speed, like stuff that's usable by you. You're not gonna get like infinite AD. It's very like, it has a little bit of like I'm pretty sure, it's not confirmed, I don't think, but it has some sort of bad luck protection. The one that's really broken is when you roll mana regen. On every single unit, ask anybody who's like plays the game a lot, they will tell you like the mana regen on over 9,000 is the biggest high roll ever, because you just get your cast off so much easier. Like think about Katarina, right? Part of the reason why you play Rise and Prodigy, like it is so important, your board spikes so hard off of that, is because if she can get her cast off a couple times earlier, she's just great. So like having the mana regen is so important. 1 mana regen is actually pretty substantial, can sway a lot of units, and it's not just on Katarina, it's like on everybody, and that's a big part of over 9,000 being really strong. If in the future they remove mana regen off over 9,000, you will see a lot of people start to say that this one's kind of shitter, like a lot shittier than it used to be. It is a big part of it, right? So when I look at that augment, that's why I'm saying this is A tier, because it gives you 1 mana regen, a tier, and then it increases it to 2, and that applies to your whole board. There's a lot of cases where I will look at that and think to myself, yeah, I think I really want that 1 mana regen. Think about Void Staff. Void Staff was, I think, the most broken broken item on the launch of the set, but they instantly nerfed it from 2 mana regen to 1 mana regen, and that 1 mana regen less made the item significantly worse in the stats. Like it literally went from the best item in the game to like an average item. That's how significant 1 mana regen is in some cases. So like it's actually good. Anyways, Crystal Gambit, like all the spots, we're gonna put it over here. Crystal Gambit is definitely one of the better ones. We'll talk about it later. Cybernetic Uplink. Health and mana per second if you need health and mana. Also, if you have lots of items, this one could be really good. Dazzling Display. This one, it basically makes it so when your Sork units do damage, your opponents do less damage. So it's similar to like the old Sork effects, or the old AP like vertical trait effects from previous sets if you played it. I think it's okay. I don't think it's broken, but I often see people pop off with it. It could be really bad, but I think it's actually pretty good. So I'm going to put in B tier. Deadlier Blades, I think is good now. If you're playing around like stacking AD, they kind of buff them a little. They buff the deadlier whatevers a little bit. So just keep it in mind. This works really well if you're just stacking AD on a unit. I did it on like a Kaisa build one time and it was really good. You just get infinite AD, so you want to put this on usually an auto attacker. And you want to have like a really strong opener to make use of it. So it's a little bit conditional, but it gives you a Deathblade and it stacks up, so it can be really powerful and cap you really well. Same with Deadlier Cap, same idea, but with AP. This one, oh, did they not nerf this one? Deadblades gain 4 takedowns. This one's on 3 takedowns. I thought they were both on 3 takedowns. If it's still on 4 takedowns, then whatever. But Deadlier Caps as well. Every 3 takedowns, really cool, really cool. Deepening Shadows. I don't think Wraith is in a good spot, so I want to put it in C tier. I don't think there's ever really a point where you're playing deep into Wraith. However, it could be like, I don't know, it could be good in some cases. I'll put in B tier. It's hard to rank those ones. Diamond Hands. This one's shit. We're putting in C tier for sure. Basically, this one's like Crystal Gambit, but you can only cash out once on 4-7. So basically, you're choosing to like dedicate yourself. Like you basically have to lose streak up until 4-7 with this. And that's just like impossible. You're basically saying I'm gonna lose every single round up until 4-7. It's like it's just so bad. Like I don't know. Like there's no way this is ever good. Like it might be good if you get it offered in the middle of the game, maybe. Like, I don't know. It's like forcing yourself to cash out on a certain round that's really late into the game. It's just asking for a disaster to happen. So the chances that this is a good augment for you to take is very rare. So I wouldn't often not take it. Double Trouble. This one just got buffed. I don't know how strong it is. I actually think this is maybe A tier with certain lines. I think Gnar reroll, like with Luchadors, high cap, like Gnar Mundo reroll, like around like the Jin line, but you just play double, is extremely powerful. I think Crew, it's also pretty good with. I think that there's like a couple other maybe niche lines that might be good with it. However, I haven't personally tried them out, so I'm going to put it in B tier. It's on my bucket list. I think it's strong. If I see Double Trouble, I might try out those lines if I have a spot for it. But it's also situational, right? Even though it might be really strong, you really have to commit to a line where you get a lot of value off of not too much vertical trait, right? So there's a chance that maybe at one point Supreme Cell might be really strong, right? A lot of stuff that I'm listing, it's stuff that you want to reroll typically, because then you get the value of Double Trouble, but it's also stuff that they don't have a deep vertical trait where the trait, like, you need to hit like certain thresholds, right? In the case that I'm giving you, right, they cap out at like 4 or 5, so when you get to the late game, you can actually play double of all of those 4 or 5 units and have a lot of value off of it. Emblems we'll put over here. Dual Q, 2 copies of a component and 2 5 costs. This is kind of like a bailout augment sometimes. It's not that great, but it's like okay. At least it gives you a little bit of extra value with the 2 5 costs, so I'll put in B tier. Emblems. Epoch, I think is like whatever. They nerfed this, right? I'm pretty sure. I think these ones are like maybe B tier, right? It's hard to say. They could be A tier. They're basically just like generic econ. I don't think they're any more. I think the other econs that I was talking about are better than it. Escape Velocity. This one is related to Crew. I don't know how good it is. If it's like really strong with Crew, I very rarely have seen it. I think it's just B tier. If you have a Crew spot, it can't hurt, can't be raw, it can't be bad, right? But if you're not playing Crew, obviously, I wouldn't hard force Crew off of it. So I think it's B tier. Evil Beyond Measure. Now this one, I don't know how to rank it, because I don't understand if it's bugged or not. And I genuinely mean that. Now I'm going to put in C tier. I'm going to explain why. Now let's go through it. So I did the math before, right? I did the math myself. And then I also watched, I think it was either, I think I watched Wajan and Dish Soap also do the math. These are challenger players that I sometimes watch, mostly for fun, but also to like learn the game as well. Because, you know, I'm also trying to learn as much as possible. But I did the math. And they did the math. Maybe it wasn't Wajan, maybe it was somebody else though. I know Dish Soap did it for sure. And when they did the math, this augment was shit. And when I did the math, I got the same numbers and it looked like shit. But basically, this takes your champions and it deals 4.5% of their damage as true damage for each star level. So it seems like it would be really good with a reroll line, because basically you're doing damage as true damage. So what's the difference between regular damage and true damage? Regular damage takes into account armor and MR. True damage is basically just like raw into HP, like it bypasses armor and MR is the way you could think about it. Now this augment doesn't say your units do bonus true damage. It says your units do 4.5% of their damage as true damage. So what does that mean? Now true damage is usually broken, but it's usually broken when you're either converting a lot of your damage into true damage, or if you are getting like bonus true damage. This is converting your damage into true damage. So like, let's say you take a unit and they have like, you know, 1,000 damage, or sorry, like let's say you have 10,000 damage, right? You do 10,000 damage. If you're a 3-star unit doing 10,000 damage, right? You're gonna do 4.5 as true damage per star level, so it's gonna be like 13.5 or whatever, right? Like what is it for 13.5? My math, right? It converts that damage into true damage, meaning that 13.5% of your total damage is now going to be bypassing armor and MR. It's not doing it as bonus damage. So if it's only that much is bypassing it, the damage difference is actually not that high. Because if you take 13,000 damage and then you take, if you take 10,000 damage and you take 13% of that damage, that's like, you know, roughly like 1,300. That 1,300 damage would be 1,300 damage normally. If you bypass the armor, for example, bypassing the armor resistances, the way they work, depending on like the thing, you can treat it as like 50% bonus damage on that little bit of damage. So the 1,300 damage, you're doing like maybe 50% bonus damage, and that's like kind of generous in some cases. It's not that much. You're getting like an extra 500 damage from this augment. That's very fucking little. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, it actually seems very little. And that's like a case that I'm just roughly giving you numbers, by the way. You can actually crunch it out within a fight. Now, the problem is, I see a lot of people taking this augment. Players that are much better than me. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. But I saw some players that are better than me say that this augment's shit, and I saw some players that are better than me take it instantly and say that it's good. So I don't know who the fuck to trust, because I'm not good enough to figure out between the good players and the other good players, because they're both good players, right? It's like, oh, the rank 1 player says that it's bad. Oh, the rank 2 player says it's good. Oh, the rank 3 player says it's good. Oh, the rank 4 player says it's bad. It's like, I don't fucking know what's going on with this augment. So I don't know if somebody knows something and it's bugged and it's doing bonus damage, because if it's doing bonus true damage, then this just fucking giga broken. It's S tier. But like, I don't think it's good. I genuinely don't think it's good, so I'm putting it in C tier because I'm avoiding it. If it comes out that it was bugged, or it comes out that it's like behaves differently than what I'm describing here, then me and like a bunch of challenger players are also wrong. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I tried my hardest to learn every single thing. I had like fucking 3 streams open, and I'm just scouring them to see all the augments and to take notes on them so I can make these tier lists, because that's how much effort I put into this shit. And I'm like trying to figure out what everybody's saying, and like everybody's like fucking doesn't know how this thing fucking works. And I don't know. I tried to explain it the best I can. I'm putting in C tier. I'm not taking it. If you want to take it and you think it's broken, go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Exclusive customization, I think, is C tier. You're getting a tailored item. Actually, maybe it's B tier. I can see you taking this. It's hard to say. It's basically like just 2. It gives you 5 gold, which is nice. So I think that's like okay. Like, another one doesn't give you it only gives you the 1 gold. But basically, you get a tailored item and a magnetic remover. The tailored item might be a little bit more valuable in some cases than like just the random components. So I think it's like maybe B tier, but this one's very close to C tier, because I think that you should always get 3 components if you're considering a gold augment. Emblems will rank after. Explosive growth, I think, is very situational if you just need the fast amount of EXP to level up. So I'm gonna put them both in B tier, both regular and plus. Forward thinking, I think, is definitely A tier. This just gives you so much value, so much gold. It helps you a lot with your roll down, and you often can basically force towards the line that you were trying to play anyways. There are some cases where you don't want to take it if it's going to drop your HP too low, because you're going to be very weak once you take this augment, but the trade-off is very high. It gives you an insane amount of gold. You're basically getting 70 gold plus all the other gold that you had already. Fully adaptive, I don't know if it's really good. I can't think of units that really like to have all of the stats for fully adaptive right now, so I'm going to put in B tier. I think there are a couple comps that are okay with it, namely like some of the Star Guardian and Prodigy lines can work with it really well. Also a Kali, I've seen do really well with it, but I'm not sure. So like, there's none of them that I think are like broken, is what I'm saying, to put in like Giga S tier. Gain the edge. This is an edgelord related trait. I think if you're playing edgelords, it can be pretty good, but I don't think it's that crazy unless you're playing deep into edgelords, so I would not like take it in hard force. Same with game plan. I think this is all right if you're playing around strategists already, but it's not something I would necessarily force towards. Give him the chair. This one's ass. I know I'm not ranking the hero augments. This one's just dog shit. Don't even click it. It got buffed. I think it's still ass. You can actually look at the stats. If you try and put any damage items on Mundo, it averages like a fucking 6. This shit is so bad. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe people are just building it wrong. Maybe people don't understand and stuff. I think that if this works, like, you know, you have to ask yourself if the lobby lets you win or not. Like, I don't know. It does not seem good. I'm going to put it in C tier. Glass cannon, if you need damage amp, good idea. Because it gives damage amp. Now the destinies. I think these are S tier. I think that for any of these augments, no matter how bad they are and what I'm talking about, a lot of times, like, bonus gold is just good. Gold Destiny giving 4, and then Gold Destiny Plus giving 6. This allows you to hit earlier econ intervals. And it also just gives you an augment anyways. In the case that you high roll an augment, you're in an insane spot because you have gold and the good augment. And if you get a bad augment, it pretty much makes a bad augment like mid. It makes it like alright. So in the worst case scenario, you're like getting an alright option and you're getting like a good amount of gold. And in the best case scenario, you're like winning the game because you got extra gold and a broken augment. So I think they're S tier for sure. Some people can debate. Now, I understand if you look at them and you're like, I think that they're A tier or even B tier because there are some low roll augments. A lot of these augments I was saying are particular. Like, what if you take this Gold Destiny and you get Gain the Edge, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's a chance you get an augment that's like very awkward to fit in with your board, and then you have to like hard pivot your board into something else. And I understand that there's some low rolls like that. There's even like the meme one that people say of getting Golemify and you just lose your entire board. But there's so many gold augments, the chance of those things happening are low enough that I think that they're S tier. But like I said, if you disagree and you want them to be an A tier, by all means, have them in A tier. Gold for dummies. I think this one is just a pretty okay. If you have like, it gives you gold if your dummy survives. If you have, how do I phrase it? If you have a really stable front line, I can see this being really good. Golden Guillotine. I think this one's pretty shit. The loot is pretty bad with this. This is to play around vertical executioners. And executioner is pretty bad. So I don't know if I put in C tier or B tier. I'll put it at the bottom of B tier, but just know it could go in C tier. Also, there's a lot of augments left. We gotta pick up the pace here. Golemify, I think, is B tier. It just gives you... it's not that bad. I think it got nerfed a little bit, but basically it just turns your whole board into a golem. If you can afford it, if you have a lot of gold and you can actually run the Golemify, I think it's like really good. Just have an insane front line because of it. Grand Slam, I think this used to be shit, and I put it in C tier. Now I think it's alright. Because like, what's his name? Volibear is a lot more playable. But basically, they get an extra, like, when they're, how do I phrase it? They get a little bit of attack speed, and then they leap at the combat start. So the leap is great, because I think it does the stun off rip, which is just really powerful and can sway you. So you get 2 stuns for the luchadors, which is just powerful, and it can place your Volibear in a really good spot to get a wrap for backline. And then additionally, the leaps do extra attack damage. So if you stack your Volibear, you can basically just get like a giga hit off rip and maybe even get a reset. I've seen it actually pop off a little bit, so I'm going to put in B tier. Situational for if you're playing around the luchadors. Hard bargain. So this one got better, right? Like they made it so now that the gain player health actually gives you above 100 player health. So I think this one's actually pretty good. I don't know if it's A tier or if it's still B tier. It's hard for me to say though. You can't choose carousel. You gain 4 health and 9 gold each carousel. So you get basically at 9 gold every carousel and 4 health. I'll put in B tier. I think it's still situational. I think this is really good if you already have a strong board, because then you're not worried about your carousel pick. You know what I mean? You're just getting it anyways. So it's fine. Healing orbs, I think this one's like just generic. Like, it's not that great of a combat, but we'll put in B tier. It just gives you some healing. Emblems we'll put over here. Hefty rolls, I think this is really good if you're playing specifically like crew, because you really want to like stack up the rerolls. But honestly, I think this is a lot of value for what it is. 7 health. Well, it's only 7 health actually. How much is it? Like, invested gives you 35 health per round. So in order to be at invested standards, you have to roll 10 times per round. Sorry, 5 times per round. I think it's B tier. I think this is really good with crew, right? I think it's really good for crew, but other than that, it's hard to say how good it is. Hero 101. I think this is B tier. You basically get stats if you win a couple player combats. I think if you're playing around those units, it's fine. Heroic grab bags, I'm going to put all in B tier. These ones are situational. Obviously, they're good with reroll. Something to note as well, something you could do with heroic grab bag is if you start the game off with like a really good 3-cost unit or even a 2-cost unit, you can just use it to tempo because they give you a lot of gold, right? 7 gold and 2 lesser duplicators. If you have a unit that you know you can win streak with, like a 3-cost that's really strong and you have items for it, or a 2-cost that's really strong and you have items for it, you just rip heroic grab bag, instantly duplicate it, win all of stage 2 with the extra gold that you get, and you treat it like an econ augment, and you will just win very easily. That's like a really good tech. So it's not just for reroll, just keep that in mind, but obviously good for reroll as well. High voltage, if you need spark, B tier. Obviously, if you need spark, it's good. Howling Gale, this one, dog shit. Fuck that one. Holy shit. I think only Prodigy, this is okay. So there's a couple things with this, right? Number one, you have to spend a bunch of mana, and then it summons a whirlwind. The only units that I ever see actually get value off of this is Prodigy, because they're getting so much mana that they could summon the Gales multiple times. That's the first thing. Second thing, the fucking tornado that it summons only goes one direction. It always spawns from the same side and goes to the same side the opposite way. It's not like it goes in different angles or something. So if people just know that you have Howling Gale, they can just position their units to not get stunned by the stupid Gale. Like, what is this augment? It's so tilting. I took it one time and I said never again. C tier for sure. I'm okay with it. Maybe you can position the Gale, by the way. Maybe there's a way to make it like go on the opposite side, but it always runs in that dog shit diagonal. So it's so annoying. Hustler, B tier. This one makes it so you can earn interest. This is really good if you want to aggressively tempo and play really like hardcore, like aggressive, but like losing the econ is a huge deficit, so be careful with it. Investment strategy, gaining permanent health as rounds go by. You just have to earn a bunch of interest. I think that it is okay if you're playing around reroll lines because it gives you some infinite scaling option to make them all super tanky. So we'll put in B tier, but you have to be rich as well as be playing reroll a lot of the time for this to actually have value. Item collector, B tier. I think it's pretty shit though. Doesn't give that much stats, but basically for every unique item, you get some extra stats, health, attack damage, ability power. It seems really bad because I think that it's like maybe it's C tier. Hold on. I need to open up another tier list so I can see the other thing. Isn't it like, I remember they got nerfed and it's like really bad. Yeah, this all it gives the same attack damage and ability power as the silver one. It just gives you 5 HP as well, right? But your team also gains 20 health. I think this one's really bad. I try to avoid this almost always, but there are some cases that it's okay. It's very close to C tier, but we'll put in B tier, okay? Just to be safe, because obviously if you're playing like Scuttle Puddle, I can see that you get some use out of it. So we'll just put in B tier. Alright, if you have 100 items, it's good. Emblems in D tier, just like we're not ranking them. S tier, keepers. It gives so much value in terms of how much HP it gives. 230 health shield, and all you have to do is put them together. I don't know. I explained it in the other one. I don't want to spend too much time on it. You get so much value off of keepers. Like, you can get so much HP. Like, on a unit, you can basically, like, usually position 4 adjacent allies, and that's, like, the keeper's positioning. And, like, that gives you, like, 900 HP on all the units in the front line. Like, it is so much value. 900 HP is a lot, and for 8 seconds as well, which is a good amount. It's not like a 2 second or 3 second or 4 second where it expires. You get a lot of effective HP. It's a lot of value for what it is. I think most comps can actually benefit from having keepers. I still consider it to be S tier. I'll put it there and I'll take it when I can. Know your enemy. You deal 10% more damage, so it gives you some extra damage amp. And then also you do an extra 5% if you have any of the traits active with other boards. This is really good if you're playing a lobby that lots of people have the same traits active. For example, like Mentor. If you have Mentor active, a lot of times you can get free Know Your Enemy value. Obviously, this works really well if you need damage amp. If you need damage amp, it's good because it gives you damage amp. Knuckle Dusters. This one is a hero augment. I'll put it in A tier. I think this one's really good because it plays around Vi. The thing about Vi is that even if it's not the highest cap hero augment, it is very consistent. She also drops loot on kills, which is nice, but a lot of times you can take Knuckle Dusters, play Crystal Gambit until you feel like it's like not safe, so you can even like push 1 or 2 times, double down. 5 Crystal Gambit as well has a good chance of giving you duplicators, so you could often easily hit the Vi by just sacrificing playing a little bit of Crystal Gambit, and then you can still cap out really high, either with a high roll Crystal Gambit spot where you play 7 Crystal Gambit, or you can play 5 Crystal Gambit and like rack up some rewards and maybe steamroll if you're playing from advanced, or you can just pivot out of Crystal Gambit after you get the duplicators and you get your initial cash out where you like sack the first couple rounds and you know like maybe sack double down twice or one time, and then you can do really well with it. I actually had a crazy Vi hero augment game over here, so if you want to see it, that's exactly what I did in this game. But this was a crazy Crystal Gambit game because I had a Crystal Gambit spat. But even if you don't have the Crystal Gambit spat, I don't think I have the video on this channel, but I did it. I had played it without the spat, and I did the same strategy, and I think it works really well. Because of that, I think it's one of the better hero augments, because you're not in a spot where it's like, I need to hit my hero augment or bust, because you can play around Crystal Gambit with it really nicely. You have a really good opportunity to stabilize around that, which helps it quite a bit. So I definitely put in A tier. Last second save. Holy fuck. Are we going S tier or A tier? I don't know. This shit's so broken. I want to put in A tier. I don't get it. It gives so much HP, right? The first time each ally falls below 20 to 35% health, they restore 22% of their maximum health. Bro, it's so much healing. It's so much healing. It's insane. Every time I see somebody with this augment, they're going 1 or 2. It is so broken. Like, I know it doesn't seem like that much, but let's say like Keepers, for example, right? Keepers gives like for 8 seconds like 800 health shield or 900 health shield to some of the units, and then a lot of the other units it's like 600, and then some of them it's a little bit less. This thing, it's like as soon as a unit's about to die, they restore 22% of their max health. Now that's not that much, because obviously if they have like 1,000 or 2,000 health, let's just assume a tank has like 2,000 health, it's recovering like 400 HP, right? 400 is a lot less than Keepers, but this shit works without having to grief your position, and it also works on your backline. So sometimes you're trying to kill the enemy carry, it's like, oh, it's a 1v1, it's me, my backline carry versus their backline carry, and then the motherfucker lives because of last second save. But I think it's not. We'll put in A tier. Maybe I'm just ranting for no reason. It's definitely somewhere. It's here or here, right? I don't know. It's hard to say. I think Keepers is better though. Like actually, like I think you can get more value off of it. Because this one, even if you like you know, your tanks have to have a lot of HP for this to be as good as Keepers, in my opinion. So I'll put in A tier. Learn from the best. I think this one sucks. I'm gonna put in C tier. Basically, when you start up a champion, they gain 50% of all the mentor bonuses. You need to have the mentors already. So if you have 4 mentor already, this can be a little bit better. But if you don't have the mentors, you're not getting the bonuses when you star them up. And 50% of the mentor bonus is not even that much. Because if you think about it, it's like a little bit of durability and a little bit of HP and stuff. And if you're not playing reroll, it's like very little. You're basically like saying to yourself, I'm going to get like 2 durability and 3 AD. And that's my augment. My whole board gets 2 durability and 3 AD. Now, if you have the mana regen, like the Rise, this is a lot better. Because we already talked about it. Remember, chat? We talked about mana regen. So, I don't know where to put this. I want to put it in C tier. But because of Rise, if you have a Rise, I would say it's a little bit better. And you can put it in B tier. But this one, do not confuse it with the other Mentor one that is broken. We will talk about it later when we get to it. Little Buddies, if you're playing a lot of low-cost units, of course, really good. Because it strengthens your 4 and 5 cost. It works really well at certain boards, like Soul Fighter, for example, Star Guardian. Maybe not Star Guardian as much, but like if you have boards that have a lot of 1 and 2 costs, it can really strengthen them up. Emblems we're going to put in D tier in the unrank. Mace's Will. This gives a good amount of combat power. Basically, it gives you the attack speed and the critical strike chance, which can work really well if you're making like a Striker's IE style board. So this one's actually pretty popular, and I think it's a pretty good option. Malicious Monetization, if you need the extra econ, you can take it, B tier. Moonlight, this one has some win conditions. I'll put it in B tier for that reason. Basically, it makes a 1-star into a 3-star, a 1 cost into a 3-star. This, I've seen it taken with like Kale, for example, and like Kale pivots with it, which is really powerful. But a lot of times, you kind of don't really need it, because if you're rerolling, you're rerolling. New Contenders, I think this one's pretty good, but I'll put it in B tier. It could be A tier. Basically, when you're playing Supreme Cell, the rest of your team gets some of the Supreme Cell bonuses, and they can also become the Supreme Cell. This is particularly good if you're playing around Cassante. However, you need to be usually playing 4 Supreme Cell to actually make this really powerful, or at least 3 Supreme Cell. This with 2 Supreme Cell feels pretty weak, So it's like a little bit awkward because a lot of those lines you want to play 2 Supreme Cell. That's why I'm putting in B tier. But if Supreme Cell was like really popular and like a go-to comp, I can see this being like even S tier. It's like really good. No Scout, no Pim I don't think is in the game, so I'll just put it in D tier. Noble Sacrifice, it gives armor when the first unit dies, so you know it's good if you have a unit with a lot of armor. Overheal, I think is really strong, because right now, okay, I'm going to put Overheal in A tier, and I'll tell you guys why. Overheal is not something that you think about like as an Omnivamp tool. If you read it, every 3rd attack deals 110 damage and heals 50% of the damage. There are a lot of units right now that love to have Guinsoo, Ashe, Gangplank, Gnar, Jhin. I don't know, other people as well. Jhin not really. This isn't good on Jhin, by the way. Sorry, that's a misspeak, right? But there's actually a lot of users now that like Guinsoo. Overheal is like good with Guinsoo hold. That's the way you should think about it. When a unit auto attacks a bunch, then you get a 3rd attack off a lot more often, which gives them a huge burst of damage and as well as like extra healing. This can also work on Volibear in some builds because Volibear also attacks really fast because he gets a burst of attack speed. So because of that, there's a lot of users of it, and I think it's generally a really strong augment. So I'm going to put in A tier. Actually, no, I think it's specific. We'll put in B tier. I convinced myself, right? Because you have to play a Guinsoo holder. But if you have a Guinsoo holder, it's A tier, okay? Pair of 4s, if you're playing a comp with 2 4 costs, it's good because it buffs both of them. Pandoras, we talked about a lot before. I think this is B tier for sure. You get 2 components. But you get to roll them on the Pandoras. It's a little bit underpowered for a gold, especially if you're good at playing around your items. You don't need to rearrange your items in most games. There's some games where Pandora's a really good bailout. That's why I'm putting in B tier. But a lot of the times, you're better off just making your components and saving HP. Making your items saving HP and playing towards what your items dictate instead of taking Pandoras, having all your items roll on bench, and then having your quote-unquote bis and then just losing the game anyways because you mismanaged your HP, right? That's my take on it. But there are situations where it's really good. There are situations where you want to reforge stuff infinitely, spatulas, artifacts, things like that. And it's also a really good bailout. So we're going to put in B tier, same as all the other ones. If you have the spot for it, it's good. Patient Study, I think, is B tier. Maybe it's A tier. Honestly, I think it's A tier. It gives you, if you're loose streaking, it actually gives you a lot of XP. It feels like a little bit worse than Cluttered Mind in some cases. However, it continues to give you value without needing to clutter later in the game. So you actually get it back a lot. Now, typically you want to lose streak with Patient Study, but 2 XP or 3 XP is basically 2 or 3 gold per turn. It's actually a pretty good econ. I think it's warranted enough to go to A tier. Piercing Sight, this one I think is A tier. This one's applicable on a lot of units. If you have a unit that does repeated damage, so either Guinsoo holders, I think it's also good on Karma because their disc spins a lot. You get a bunch of damage, right? Now, this is what I was talking about before with true damage, right? Remember when we were talking about this one, I said I don't know how good it is because, like, you know, it deals it as, like, as their damage, it converts it to true damage. This one deals bonus true damage. This is so much more powerful because, like, you can do up to 20% bonus damage if you're just attacking the same target multiple times. This is an insane tank buster. Like, if you have an Ashe and your Ashe is stuck on a tank, all of a sudden, she's doing 20% bonus true damage. Like, huh? Huh? Hello? Hello? A tier for sure. And it works with a lot of other users because there are a good amount of Guinsoo holders. There are also other users that do repeated hits, right? Even Yuumi, in certain cases, can make use of this because she does, like, repeated hits. So I think it's just good. I think there's a lot of carries that can make use of it. Pilfer, you get a copy of a unit that was killed. If people have high cost units, like if you're playing like a 3 cost opener, this is actually a lot better, I think. But like generally speaking, it's like just like a pretty econ augment. But you can farm some really expensive units sometimes if you position well for it, right? You can pilfer into, like, you know, target down a 4 cost or a 5 cost, and then, like, even if you lose the round, you at least get that off of it. So it actually could be really strong. B tier situational. Plot armor. You get a bunch of armor once you drop below 40%, 50% health. It's pretty good if you need armor, so B tier. Portable Forge. There are a lot of hits that it might be A tier. But I think as of right now, it's just like I usually put in B tier, right? There are ones that are win conditions. I think some people really love to just rip a portable forge, but there's also a lot of misses, and a lot of the ornament effects are very particular. There's not that as many generic ones as there used to be. As the sets and stuff go on, they kind of make them more and more like niche and like crazy effects and stuff. So I think it's always a gamble. So we'll put in B tier, like the solid, like, yeah, you know, sometimes good, sometimes bad tier. Power of Friendship. Now, this one I think is broken. I think this is actually just really broken as an augment. It's just that Star Guardians isn't good. So as an augment, it's really good. Like, this is one of the enablers for Star Guardians. Basically, if you put them next to each other, they get 1 mana regen, which we already talked about as being broken, but also 20 armor and 20 magic resist. I think this really elevates the power of Star Guardian to be really powerful. Because I already think it's like almost there. It's like almost playable if you can hit all of your units and stuff, and or if you have a Star Guardian +1. I just think that if Star Guardian, like, you know, a lot of it's tied to the power of Star Guardian, but I think as an augment, this augment's broken, right? I think this augment's really strong. It's just that Star Guardian might be weak. So then if you play Star Guardians, it like averages to be like okay and look balanced, but I think that augment's broken. Power upload. This makes your mech kind of like a carry where you can give him a power up and you get some extra bonuses. I think it's all right. I already talked about how Mighty Mech I think is relevant right now. So if you play this, I think there's also some lines that you can carry the mech. Precise shot. This one's about snipers where basically they fire at the lowest health enemy every little bit. It sounds really broken, but snipers is like hard to judge right now. Because, like, there's not many vertical sniper lines that really like to have this. But I think that if snipers become... Like it's hard to say. Like, this one is very obviously broken. This one's hard to say because I haven't seen it in action actually do well. But this sounds broken. So this one could be A tier. Just keep your eyes on it if snipers become really relevant. Or if you're already playing, like, a sniper carry like Fast 9 Varus or something. Preemptive protection. This is protectors. If you're playing vertical protectors, like sometimes with a like, smolder reroll line, it's pretty good. But basically, you're just getting shielding for their maximum health, so it usually works well with reroll because you get the extra HP from 3-starring your units. Preparation, I think, just gives a lot of stats. It's hard to say though. 45 health, 3 attack damage, 3 ability power, up to 4, so it's 12 attack damage, 12 ability power. I'll put in A tier. I'm okay with that. Prize fighter. If you're strong, really good. 5 wins gives you an item component, which I think is not that great, but it does start with 2 item components. I'll put it in B tier, but it has the potential to be a lot better. Because if you can win 10 rounds, you're basically getting more value than a gold, right? I just think it's not A tier. Emblem? Psychic Forge to me feels like a lower cap, but higher... Sorry, a lower ceiling but higher floor version of Pandora's. Basically, it just reforges specifically into an item that's good on the unit that you put on bench. So instead of having to wait for your items to roll into, or your components to roll into items with Pandora's, you could just instantly within 1 round get a bunch of items that you need or that are serviceable on the units. But it doesn't give you like the perfect items that you want because it's a random item that's good on them. So it's like less cap, but it's like a similar situation as Pandora's is where you would take it, right? Pumping up I don't think is that good. Even though a lot of units love attack speed, I don't think there's any that really like to have like the pumping up augment. It feels a little bit underpowered, so I'm gonna put it in B tier. But I think that it could be really good on like Ash lines and stuff. I feel like it's not that great on Prodigy, but I expected it to be good on Prodigy, so I'm not sure. It might also just be the way that mana regen is adjusted for some of the units, that a lot of them, like some of the casters, don't like attack speed as much now. Hard to say, so I'm just gonna put it in B tier. Pyromaniac, you get a red buff and you do more damage. If you need red buff, it's good. So B tier. Quiet Quitting. Basically, you don't do anything, and then you get 16 gold in a completed anvil, and you have to sack 3-player combats. It seems kind of weak to me, so I want to put it in C tier. 16 gold in a completed item. Maybe I'll put it in A tier. It's definitely not as bad as another one, right? Raid boss, I don't think there's a line that really uses it, but we'll put in B tier because I don't think it's enough to put in C tier, right? If you're playing around vertical bastions, it could work out to be okay. Raining gold, these are like the epitome of just like B tier, just giving you some extra gold. Reinforcement, You get a 4 cost and some gold. This is like a good bailout augment, or you can even hit a 3-star sometimes with it. So, you know, if you're in need of econ and hitting your units, this can actually help you to get, like, this can solve, this is the type of, like, augment that can save your game. So it's like a B tier, right? Not high cap, but obviously you can save your game. Replication gives 3 components. If you high roll with replication, it's actually pretty strong. I think that it's definitely like a solid pick in a lot of cases, and it can also give you a lot of direction, because getting 3 components, a lot of times you could just like make all your items with it, and it can also give you a really strong indication for AP or AD if you get sword or rod or anything in between. So I actually think it's pretty good. I generally like to take this as an option, because 3 components and you just guarantee 3 of the same one. There's a lot of times where 3 of the same components could put you in really high roll spots or really decent spots, because a lot of the items that you like to make are usually double component items. Ring the bell. This one used to be bugged. Now they said that it's not bugged. So it used to be dog shit. I'm gonna put it in B tier because I don't know, right? Salvage bin. I'm a big salvage bin enjoyer. I'll say it. So salvage bin gives you a completed item. Let me put it here. Right, read it. It's a completed item and 1 component. So it gives you 3 components. So that's as strong as the other gold augments. Remember what I told you. 3 components, that's a gold augment. What do we have? 3 components. That's a gold augment. But then you can also rearrange your items by selling your units. This is so powerful because a lot of times it can help you to pivot and play very flexibly. I am a big salvage bin taker. I almost always take it. I am a big salvage bin enjoyer. I will always say that, but I'll put in B tier because it's 3 components, right? You don't technically have to rearrange or remake your items. However, it does allow you to slam everything and be very flexible, but then it could also be a little bit cumbersome. So just keep that in mind. But I'll put in B tier with the other ones that give 3 components. Sage Spellweaver, I don't think there's anybody that makes great use of it, so it's in B tier. Sometimes you have units that really love to have the Omnivamp with the casting, and then it's a little bit stronger, but I think it's like alright. If you have a unit that casts a bunch, I'm sure it has value. Scapegoat, if your target dummy dies, you get some gold. I think that this is just B tier, right? General econ. Scavenger, 5 enemies, you get components, but you have to kill the enemies to get the items. I don't know if it's still bugged. Sometimes it gives you the wrong item as well. So I'm going to put in B tier. I don't think it's that strong personally, but it's like, you know, if you need, it's like a combat augment. You can get some components off of it. This works really well if you have like frontline that you know is going to live, or like healing frontline or something, because then you get the items and you can heal back up and you become like giga tanky later into a fight. But you also have to have burst damage. That's the thing, right? So if you don't have burst damage that you're killing units quickly, by the time you run your scavenger items, you're kind of like, it's kind of already over the game. Scoreboard Scrapper, I think, is broken. It gives so many stats. You just have to sack your game. If you have a spot for it, I think it's definitely A tier. You get so many stats. Right now, I want to make this very clear, chat. Listen to me. Listen up, everybody. Scoreboard Scrapper is bugged, okay? Don't take it right now, but I'm going to put in A tier because in a week it will probably be fixed, okay? Can you guys agree with me? I'm not going to put in C tier. Listen to the words I'm saying. It's bugged. Now you might be asking, what's the bug? The bug is you have to bench your units every single round. If you don't bench your units, they don't get the stats. So if you put the unit on the board, the next round, it will reset the stats. But the stats are per team, so you have to re-bench it and then put it back on the board, and then it resets it, and then it gains the Scoreboard Scrapper stacks. It's really fucking annoying. It's hard to remember. And it's an absolute fucking gong show fiesta that makes it completely not worth it to click this augment. However, it does give a lot of value. It gives an insane amount of stats and can often put you in an insane win condition spot, especially if you're playing around a comm that loves to have base stats. Like, think about like Cassante Akali, think about like Executioners, think about things that have damage amp. But I just want to make it very clear, it's bugged right now. You heard it from me. We're all on the same page. Okay. Slamming! I love slamming. I think it's one of the best econ augments. I'm putting them in A tier for sure. So, slamming is good for 2 reasons. Number 1, it constantly will give you XP. In most cases, it has no downside. Now, it only gives 2 XP. There are other augments that give you 3 XP. I understand that. These ones also give you a component. A lot of times you get the component, you get a little bit more direction on what you're playing. You can also slam an item early, right? A lot of times with slamming, it's a lot better if it completes an item. So let's say I see slamming. If I have 3 components on bench and I see slamming, I'm more inclined to click it because then I can take those 3 components plus 1. I have 4 components. That's 2 items. Slamming is a little bit worse if you take it and you don't have items to slam, right? If you take it and you're like, oh, I'll get an extra component here, I can make 2 completed items. Or if you get slamming plus, I can make extra items, right? That's usually when it's better. It's when you get the component that allows you to complete the item, because that makes you a lot stronger at the same time. Because a single component, like a bow, that gives 10 attack speed. A bow with another component, it makes it so much stronger. That's just something to make it very clear. However, it also gives you infinite value because you're always going to be making your items. You should almost never have a bunch of items on your bench unless you're playing for like a crazy win out or you don't know what you're doing and it's a bad game. Usually you have to slam all your items anyways, and usually you're going to have 1 or 2 spare components that you might want to play around, like an open bow or an open whatever. And in those cases, you just put them on a random unit on your board and then you get full slamming value no matter what. So it has pretty much no downside, constantly gives you 2 gold, could give you early direction, and in the cases where it completes an item for you, like if you have an extra component free and you take it and then you have and then you complete your components, it's extremely strong. So I like it. I think it's as good as all the other A tiers. I take it almost always when I see it. It's very strong. Solo leveling is S tier. This is giga broken. Basically, as long as you have like an upgraded unit, a lot of times this just makes you extremely strong on stage 2. You pretty much can giga win, and sometimes you can even win harder if you have like an upgraded 2 cost or if you have a 3 cost in some cases. It basically giga powers up a unit, then you get XP for every kill that they have, and then afterwards you get 2 components. So a lot of times the typical solo leveling game is you're going to play a unit, you're going to 5 streak on stage 2 because you just win out. You get a bunch of XP, so now you're like level 6, 50 gold, you have infinite econ, so you're in a really good spot, and then you also get 2 item components afterwards, which is just strong anyways, so you're just insanely strong. It just puts you in such an amazing spot. Now, sometimes with solo leveling, you'll play it, and you'll lose 1 or 2 rounds, but in most cases, even if you lose a couple rounds, you get so much value off of it. You're so strong, you save so much HP, you get a good chunk of XP, you get at least like 10 to 15 gold worth of XP, and then you get 2 item components. It's insane. It's such an insane thing. It's like, hey, here's an augment that lets you save HP, make econ, because you only have to play 1 unit, so you don't even have to hold an insane bench. You just have to hold enough to like upgrade 1 unit, so you can sell your whole bench, make every econ interval, win streak, and get XP, and you get 2 components afterwards. It's like, what the fuck is this augment? S tier. That's what it is, guys. It's S tier. Emblems we're putting in the D tier. Space Camp we're gonna put in B tier. It's fine. It's like if you're playing around crew, I'm sure it can help out. You know, you get an extra crew every time you upgrade 1. It's not that good. It might be C tier, but I'm gonna put it in B tier. It can't hurt if you're playing crew. That's all I'll say. Spear's Will, if you need a sword, it gives you some mana as well, so that's pretty good. There's not many sources of starting mana right now, so this one might actually be really broken, so be aware of that. But it gives you some attack damage and a BF sword. If you're in need of BF sword, probably good. Spirit Link heals your units based on your missing health. If you have a bunch of missing health, really good. Spoils of War, I think, is C tier. I don't think the cash outs are good enough for this. Basically, what you're saying is, I'm strong enough that I'm going to generate loot by winning rounds, but you're going to be down a gold augment in doing so because Spoils of War is going to take up a spot. So you're going to lose against a lot of boards later, and I feel like the cash outs for it really don't keep up with it. Spoils of War is really good if you're playing into like a reroll line where you're going to be consistently strong early because it can also give you a lot of the duplicators and stuff. But generally speaking, I think it's pretty shit. I try to avoid it as much as possible. It really, every time I take it, I regret it. So I'm putting in C tier. Star Guardian Emblem, we're going to put with the other emblems. Nico Hero Augment, I think is shit. I wouldn't click it. Basically, as much as I love Nico, and the Nico Hero Augment was one of my favorite things to talk about and do in previous sets, they changed her from being a tank. So now, when Nico jumps up, she doesn't generate mana from getting hit. That's a big change that made Starfall a lot worse. Because before, what would happen is you'd have a Nico, she would jump in the air, she would be unkillable, and then you would take a lot of and then you would generate a lot of mana, and it would cause her to repeatedly cast. You want this unit to cast repeatedly because then she increases her radius and she does like whole board, like giant AoE damage. That's the whole point of it. But because she doesn't generate mana from getting hit, it is like fucking impossible to get this unit to actually scale in a fight. It's like the Giga 8th all the time. It is so bad. It looks bad. It's just bad. Now they tried to change it a little bit. What they did is they made it so that when she jumps up, it takes less time. And I remember I was talking about it on the patch notes, saying I don't know if this is a buff or not. I don't even think they buffed it. I know they recently buffed it. I don't even think that's a buff. Because now, like, even though she casts a little bit faster, quote unquote, a little bit faster, because she jumps up in the air and she comes back down a little bit quicker, she spends less time in the air, so she dies quicker, because the only time that she's unkillable is when she's in the air. So she literally jumps in the air, and you're like, oh, she's gonna heal up and she's gonna be fine. No, she jumps back down because of the supposed quote unquote buff, and then she just gets fucking reamed by a fucking volley or whatever the fuck has burst damage, and she just dies instantly. I swear it's even worse than it was before. Now, maybe I'm wrong with that. I don't know for sure. I haven't looked at the stats. Maybe it was a buff, but it's like, it wasn't enough of a buff for it to be noticeable. So don't click this, please. It's bad. Okay, it's bad. Stars are born. Upgrading units, if you're playing reroll, it can be really good. 1 cost and 2 cost champions get upgraded to 2-star, but it also gives you 7 gold, so it can put you in a really tempo and aggressive early game spot, especially if you can like hit a strong 2-star 2 cost. Emblems we're gonna put over here. Sunfire board, I'm gonna put it in B tier. I don't know how good this is. I've been taking it recently, but I think it's not that great. Like, it has a burn, which I thought was pretty good. Like, you know, like it basically, if you need anti-heal, it can't be bad. But I don't think it's that strong. I think I'm overvaluing a little bit. So if you see me clicking it a lot, I won't be clicking it as much in the future. Teacher's Council. This one's the broken one. A tier. What this does is it makes all the mentor bonuses better, right? So all the mentor bonuses get increased. But then it also makes your whole team benefit from the mentor bonuses. One of the parts of mentor that is strong or like balanced about it is that when you have 4 mentor, it only applies to the 4 mentor units. So none of the other units get the 4 mentor bonus. So if you want to give your whole team a bonus, you only have to play 1 mentor. This augment allows you to play 4 mentor, and everybody gets all 4 of the mentor bonuses. It's fucking ridiculous. It is so broken. Now this, obviously GP is really strong. So this with GP is like a giga win. It's like an instant win. If you see this, you just hard force GP, I guarantee you'll have a good time. It won't even be difficult. But even outside of GP, I think this augment is just busted in general. Like, any mentor line is probably good with this. So I think it's just A tier. Like, there's no way it's bad to me. Like, everybody benefiting from the mentor bonuses and buffing them is just so much power. It's so much power to everybody. Tesla Coil I think is A tier. This gives a lot of damage. Basically, if your units have 3 items, you get these extra chain lightning effects going on. It's pretty strong. It does do a significant amount of extra damage, especially if you have a lot of items. So this is something that I usually default to, whether I'm playing AP or AD, and just say like, yeah, this is like a decent amount of damage here. I think it also has synergy, which with Void Staff, but I might be wrong about that. But like Void Staff becomes like similar to like Static Shiv, that because you're doing magic damage to backline. But I haven't tested it, right? I heard somebody say it, but they might have just been like conjecturing the same way I am. So don't quote me on that, but I have to test that out as well. If that works as well, then it's really good. Darkness Within, they nerfed this shit because it was broken. I still think it's pretty shit. Basically, you summon these extra monstrosities, but I think Wraith in general is just hard to work with. And I think this one in particular is really weak now. God's Eye opens. This one, it basically like buffs one of the Soul Fighters. Soul Fighter is pretty good right now. I think this is an augment where it's fine. Every 4 seconds, you're buffing a Soul Fighter. If you're playing Vertical Soul Fighter, B tier, obviously, it could be good. Strongest survives whenever an ally dies. Grant the Supreme Cell that did the most damage 8% of their maximum health. I don't know if this is how strong this is. It sounds pretty good if you're playing like Darius, I think. Like, Strongest Survive sounds really good with Darius if you're playing Darius reroll. But I don't know how good it is outside of Darius reroll, so I'm just going to put in B tier. Thorn Plated, I think, is a really good tempo thing. And nowadays, there's a lot more AD comps that can actually make use of Thorn Plated late game. It's also really good on Malphite. But basically, you get a Bramble Vest that just gets powered up. Early game, Bramble Vest is also really good, by the way. Because at the start of a game, if you have a Bramble Vest, a lot of the units don't have really crazy powerful ults because they're either 1-cost units or they're 1-starred units, and they don't have like a lot of items to scale their ults. So a lot of the damage early game, even if you're playing AP lines, look at the damage, a lot of it comes from AD, from auto attacking, like just basic attacks. So reducing that with Thorn Plated is actually pretty substantial. So it's actually really good as a tempo augment. just to like win streak on stage 2. So if you have any sort of frontline upgrade, thorn plated usually can tempo you stage 2. The value of it late game comes into play with how many AD versus AP lines there are, and because now there are a lot more AD lines. Like last patch it was like mostly like Karma and Yumi boards, so then it felt really shitty to take this augment because late game it was just absolutely fucking useless. But now it's like a lot better because a lot of AD lines. But still, I would also not only look to win streak with it, obviously that's one reason to take it, but if you also are playing into a lobby that has AD lines, it's like insanely good. Then it's like an instant click, you know what I mean? Time skip, you get 28 XP for waiting 3 rounds. It doesn't seem like that much to me compared to other econ augments, so I'm gonna put in B tier. Tiny team, this one's dog shit. So basically you only play 3 Star Guardians or less, and then they increase their bonuses. However, Star Guardian doesn't give bonuses to your whole team or anything like that, so it doesn't have the same applicability as in the past with like some of the other bonus effects. So it just feels like really awful to play this, because there's very few times with a board where you're trying to play 3 Star Guardian, have them as the carries. If you're playing Star Guardian carries, you want to play all the Star Guardians. Tomb Raider, very situational. I put this in C tier. You're basically down a gold augment and expecting 3 people to die before you. If you're in an insane spot, like you have 100 HP, even then this could be a big grief. So I very rarely want to take this unless I have the most insane spot and I know that I'm winning for free, or if I'm playing some broken, unbalanced board like Gangplank, last patch. Not even this patch Gangplank I would take this, but last patch Gangplank, then maybe it's pretty good. But very rarely am I taking this, so I'm putting it in C tier. Like amongst all the other ones, I very rarely would go for that. Tons of stats, just gives a lot of stats. Decent, B tier if you need the stats. Obviously better with boards that need base stats, right? Like tons of stats can be better with like an Executioner board, for example, as opposed to like Soul Fighter. Next we have tournament favorites. This one's pretty good. The loot that you get from it is actually pretty massive because it actually can cash you out a lot of Gwens. So if you're playing Soul Fighter, it can be really good, but however, you want to make sure that you're playing it from a good spot, so it's a little bit more situational, but we'll still put in B tier. Tournament Titans, this one I saw pop off. I don't know if it's broken. This could be A tier. Basically, luchadors gain stacking AD and health if you win player combats. So it's really good now because of Volibear. One person had this augment and played Volibear, and they won out on stage 4, and then their Volibear was fucking unkillable because their Volibear had like a shit ton of AD and a shit ton of HP. That doesn't sound like that much though, because they only gain it, like they gain 2 per win. So if you win 5 rounds in a row with a Volibear, he's only getting 10 AD and like, you know, 150 HP. So it doesn't seem that good. So in the past I looked at this and I said it's pretty shit, but I've seen people really pop off with it, especially if you have an early 4 luchador, and I saw it get up to like 30 AD, for example. So I'm not sure if it's like tied to the trait, so you can farm it early with a Gnar, and then when you play a Volibear later, he gains the extra AD and stuff. So it's hard to say, right? So I don't know exactly how it works, but I've seen it do okay, so I'm gonna put in B tier. But I still think I would avoid this. I think there's better options, right? Because you really need to win the rounds as well in order for this to actually pop off. Tower defense, you get an emblem and a thing, and it does damage. B tier on a dummy. Trade sector, I think is pretty good. You get a free reroll every round and 4 gold. I don't think it's as good as some of these other econ ones, so I'm gonna put in B tier. Transfer students, this one's really good if you're playing around academy, but I'll put in B tier. You can just get a bunch of 3 stars with this. Treasure hunt, I think even after the nerfs, it's still really broken. I'm gonna put in S tier. Treasure hunt, you just get so much value off of the basically when you roll 20 gold, you unlock a chest and you get some extra loot from it. It is so much loot, it is so powerful. I feel like treasure hunt is an instant click, and then you just figure out what reroll you're playing afterwards, because this thing gives you like Orn artifacts, masterworks. Oh, I think they got rid of the masterworks, by the way, but it gives you Orn artifacts. It gives you like insane gold. It can give you upgraded units. It's just so much power. It gives you so much value for a gold augment. And if you're gonna reroll anyways, like if you just want to reroll anyways, it doesn't even have a downside because you're just rerolling anyways to hit your units. Trifecta, if you're playing 3 costs, it buffs the 3 costs. B tier. Twilight Assault, I'm gonna put in the unrankable. I don't know how good these hero augments are, so I'll put them over there. Too much value if you're playing 2 cost reroll. This works really well with Jin reroll. But you need to be playing around 2 costs. You could use it as a general econ, but I don't recommend it. Sometimes it feels a little bit grief when you do that, but you could try it. It's also fine. 2 trick, this is like the augment that you just tempo with. You just get a 2-star 2 cost and 2-star 1 cost. So you just like take it early and hope that you can win streak. Unseizing the Juggernaut augment, if you're playing vertical Juggernaut frontline, it will be pretty useful. Vampiric Vitality, I think this one's pretty shit. It just gives 12 Omnivamp, and Omnivamp is pretty easy to come by nowadays because of the changes to rolls. So I feel like the healing that you get from Vampiric Vitality is so useless. I usually avoid this augment. Wandering Trainer, I think, is a solid B tier. If you want to play around emblems, go for it. But generally speaking, I don't think it's that strong. But it does give you a little bit of gold, the 1 gold. So, you know, it's just mostly for direction. So B tier, like pretty average. Warpath, C tier. By the time you cash out Warpath, you usually question why you even bothered it in the first place. That's enough said about that. Water Lotus, crit, if you need crit, pretty good. It can also give you a little bit of mana as well with it. So that's like the new crit thing. If you need crit on your abilities, Water Lotus is there for you. Worth the Wait, I think, is A tier. I'm going to put it in an A tier. So Worth the Wait is really good because there are now bonus fruits that can scale effectively early game. A lot of the 1 costs are in a good spot where you can often play around pretty much anything you get with Worth the Wait, which is really powerful. So with this and the bonus fruits that can often scale you and set you up really good in late game, I think that's a really good tempo augment, as well as like a late game cap in some cases. There's also strict win conditions. For example, if you hit a crew unit with Worth the Wait, that's insane. If you hit a Kale with Worth the Wait, that's also insane. So because there's also like 1 cost that can actually win you the game for free if you hit them, or like give you a top 4 for free if you hit them, I think it's definite A tier. And then Emblem in D tier. Alright, of the emblems, quick aside, I think Crystal Gambit is the best one. So, you know, if you have the option and you can play Crystal Gambit, then Crystal Gambit's really good. Luchador in some cases okay, but I wouldn't recommend it because usually you want to hit the Braum anyways. Prodigy I end up taking a little bit because it helps me, it could be sometimes consistent. But usually with the emblems, oh, and Strategist is really good, and Star Guardian. Star Guardian, often if you can get to 9 Star Guardian, this is really broken. But I wouldn't recommend it because usually Star Guardian does better if you just like hit the emblem off a carousel or off a wandering trainer or something. And then Strategist has a really good bonus effect. So often Strategist can be really strong to take because it gives you like a support item, extra armor, extra attack speed type of bonus. But obviously if you have a spot for any of the emblems, usually it's dictated by like the emblems you should always think about, especially this set, that emblems don't like contribute to like a prismatic trait. Emblems are usually like, am I in a spot where this is gonna right now make me aggressively strong and allow me to like win streak this stage? If that's the case, then the emblems are pretty good. Otherwise, I usually would avoid them because it's very rare that these are like necessary, except for like very particular builds where you need to fit in certain traits. So a lot of times they're like unless you have specifically a spot, because you're trading a lot of combat power and a lot of potential other augments for just an emblem. Anyways, oh, that's the gold tier list. I try my best to explain everything and make it very good. Obviously it's long, but I made sure to explain every single augment, what it does and why I rank it the way I do. Hopefully that's informative. Watch it on 2x speed if it's boring you. Also, right before we leave, I'll do the giveaway. We reached our sub goal for an RP giveaway, so if you want to enter, please make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Then you're going to have to join the Discord that is linked on each of the descriptions in each of my videos, as you see here. This will bring you to the Wolfgang Discord, which is what I use for go live notifications as well as any other discussions if you want to be a part of the community. But if not, basically if you scroll down under TFT, there's a TFT giveaway channel, and as you can see, there's going to be this best turtle bot that says the TFT RP giveaway that I just put up today. You have to just click this button that says enter giveaway. If you're having trouble finding it, it's actually pinned from the top, in the top right corner, the pinned message. You can go to it and then click the enter giveaway button. This is going to be for 1,380 RP, or around $15. And just to let you guys know, if you're not on NA servers, I sometimes have difficulty transferring the funds over. So instead, it will be an Amazon gift card, or I can give you a coupon for merch store or a custom art piece, whatever you desire. But thank you for supporting me, and to many more giveaways in the future.